Thank you for inviting me. I'm one of the partners at Amino Capital, and we have been investing in blockchain field because we're lucky that we were one of the first outside money of Skuchain. And they actually founded in 2013 when there were not a lot of venture money due to the slash of Bitcoin price in 2013. And we're very lucky, and we also invested in Conify, which actually pivot to String, which incubated the most anticipated ICO project in 2015, which is Definity. And so we also joined the private sale of Missy Go and Kyber and 0x, which was doing pretty well these days. And so we are the investor that we like to buy and hold, and we often feel that those are the entrepreneurs that we were early stage investor, and those are the entrepreneurs based on years of research, but they only raise token instead of equity, so we have to invest in them. So that's why we also invest in crypto. And last year, average hedge fund, their average return is about 8%, and the average crypto hedge fund, the average return is a little bit over 1,000%. So it's actually the largest bubble in human history. And behind it is actually Web 3.0 and token economy. So Web 1.0 is .com, and Web 2.0 was social mobile, and Web 3.0 is decentralized. So it's very interesting that we've seen AI and blockchain have an opportunity to actually disrupt a highly regulated industry, which social mobile hasn't actually disrupted yet. For example, like education, healthcare, and also FinTech. So today, we're very lucky that we have 3 founders that actually from all these industries, and to talk about, in the real world, how do they think about Web 3.0? So we will probably come with Gangesh and give us an introduction, and what do you do, and how did you get into crypto?
Thank you. My name is Gangesh Ganesan. I'm a founder of a blockchain company called Peernova. We are based here in Silicon Valley, and we started the company roughly about 5 years ago. And when we started, we barely knew anything. We decided that sort of cryptocurrencies looked very interesting. Like many people, I as well read at that time the Bitcoin white paper. Thought it was interesting enough to actually go start a company. We actually started a company, and we merged with another group. And very soon we were one of the largest Bitcoin mining companies in the world. We mined, I think we mined a little over 47,000 coins in the first year. We learned a lot during this process. Bitcoin prices were very low. They went very high. They came down again. They went back up. They came down. And so within a year, things were sort of oscillating all over the place. And we were part of this thing. But what it allowed us to do was actually reach out and talk to some of the largest financial institutions in the world, because we controlled a huge Bitcoin mining network. Many of these financial institutions met with us, and early on the discussion was, what can we do with this? And this led us down a particular journey. We don't mine Bitcoins anymore. We actually built a software platform. And very specifically, we built a software platform for large financial institutions, specifically financial institutions that have, big trading platforms. We're roughly about 50 people now. We are a Series A company. We've raised about $35 million of capital in Series A. At Consensus next week, we'll be announcing the first major production installment of a blockchain application at a large tier 1 bank. And they'll be running roughly $4 trillion every day through it as part of a custodial application that they've developed together with us.
Very cool. Sriram.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sriram with Skuchain, and it's been about 3 years since we started. We saw the value in the chain versus the coin. I was the organizer of the SF Bitcoin Devs meetup at the Hacker Dojo, sister to the San Francisco one, and got deep into this thing called Bitcoin to try to understand what really made it happen. And our first investor was Amino Capital. Larry and Sue took a bet on us. Those days, people didn't know what the word blockchain actually meant. We co-founded the Blockchain University at our offices in Mountain View. So the macro is this. In 1995, there was the internet. It gave birth to e-commerce. And Amazon, Alibaba, and others gave it structure. Today, there's the blockchain. It's giving birth to what we call collaborative commerce. And we at Skuchain are giving it structure. By collaborative commerce, we allow members of a supply chain ecosystem, think of the large buyers, the Airbuses, the GEs of the world, and their hundreds and thousands of suppliers. How can they all work collaboratively to satisfy the demand that you and I produce billions of signals every day with our smartphones? We lower the cost of goods, we help with inventory financing, and the blockchain, for the first time in human history, provides this opportunity to replace centralized institutions like banks, who were the purveyors of trust. You heard of letters of credit. We, in fact, replace that whole paradigm. I'd be happy to talk in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Harshita.
I'm Harshita. I am a 16-year-old entrepreneur, programmer, and designer.
Wow.
I am known in blockchain for creating crypto price tracker application, which is a cryptocurrency price tracking and portfolio management app that I created and launched in January of this year. The app went super viral on the internet overnight. It was featured on Product Hunt, was viral on Reddit, and it became the #2 app in finance on the App Store within 24 hours of launch. It was covered quite a bit in media and news before it was acquired by Redwood City Ventures in March 2018. My involvement in blockchain is limited to building apps and figuring out creative ways to provide services to people who have problems and who have things that basically opportunities to build apps or websites for them. But now I am much more into machine learning as well and thinking of ways to integrate the two and solving problems, which is what I'm passionate about.
That's really cool. I really like your background, which is no a lot of background. That's the new ideology, like Vitalik. When he started, you know.
Ideology of a hacker.
Yeah, this is amazing panelists. And then one of the things, because there is a bubble, because there is high certainty. So back in year 2000, if you put up a website called search.com, I'm going to do all the search. And of course, you know, people will give you money, but eventually it's actually Google, not search.com. So because there's high certainty, so as of today, what is the noise versus signal? What's the real world potential of blockchain? Still, Gangesh.
Yeah, thanks. So one of the good things about being in an industry that's really hyped up is that you sort of get to work in a cool area. You get to meet a lot of very interesting customers. In general, is it good to be working in an area that's hyped up a lot versus no one's even talking about it? I'd rather take an industry that everyone is actually talking about and really hyped up. So on a positive side, I love all the hype. All of us love all the hype. Gets us news coverage for free, gets us press for free, and allows us to sort of hire talent and get into spaces that we didn't even know existed. So that's sort of one take. That said, I think over the last 2 or 3 years, blockchains, are in everybody's vocabulary. Everyone comes and talks to us about it, or everyone is talking about it. So the hype cycle is sometimes, can get in the way simply because there's a lot of noise, and some of the noise can be about problems that probably for which blockchains are not the exact fit. So when people talk to me about blockchain applications, I first ask them, don't think about the problem in the following way. Don't start off by saying, I want to use blockchain to go solve this problem. Don't do that. That might be the wrong approach most of the time. What you really want to find out is, what is the problem that the customer is actually talking about? Try and understand the problem and see what parts of the blockchain actually are applicable for it. And Dr. Mohan was talking about various sets of trade-offs various applications need to make. And once you understand what the problem is, you can actually understand what trade-offs you need to make. And then that will allow you to kind of see, is the blockchain fit for it? And if a blockchain is fit, what parts of the blockchain are actually fit for it? There are purists that talk about blockchain in some particular context, but we basically look at it and say, there's a broad toolkit of technologies, and these technologies can be used for solving the problems. If you look at that, then you can probably more easily try and figure out where the signal is and where the noise is.
Very well. Sriram.
Noise versus signal. We are the signal. But it's hard, right? You really got to do some research. I think Warren Buffett says it well. If you don't understand it, don't invest in it. So understand it first. I mean, there's a lot of understanding that needs to happen in the world of blockchain. If you look at the history and the team and the companies that are working, typically you would find that those who really understand blockchain have been around for a few years. They're not just sort of fly-by-night players. A number of them, especially last year, were sort of doing this token sale with a white paper that really meant very little. And they did raise a lot of money from a lot of people who were looking to make a quick buck. So, I mean, speculators have value. They do create liquidity in the market. There is, as you said, free press in the process and hype and all of that. But if you really want to be in it for the long term, do your research. We are hiring, so if you're interested, give us a call. But there's no substitute for hard work. Do your research.
Harshita, you made apps tracking signals. What did you find?
I think not just specific to blockchain, but pretty much any area. In one way to identify or to classify hype from substance is by really understanding the thing yourself and understanding it from the fundamentals of what it is. So when I came across blockchain for the first time, it was in 2016, and I was like, okay, how is cryptographically secure way of storing data so creative or so interesting to people other than for the purpose of payments? Can I not do half the things that people are doing in MongoDB? But then I think like in 2017-ish, I started to see like there were so many creative applications. Like I learned about Steemit, which was using the whole token incentivizing system for a really creative way, which existing startups that I had come across were not using. So I think like it's about understanding it yourself from a technical perspective and not just, oh, this ICO raised this much, and not just the business knowledge, but I think really understanding from the technical perspective, and that's how you can evaluate, okay, this thing is noise because this is just there for the purpose of raising as much money as possible, and this is the signal which is there to solve a legit problem, because at the end of the day, blockchain startups or any startups are solving a problem that exists in a target audience that are willing to pay for it or whatever else it is. It's just one of the technologies that enables you to create products that solve problems. So that is the core, and understanding it from the fundamentals can help you classify noise and signal.
Exactly. I think for investors, we sometimes heard that anything that governed by network, eventually it will be a protocol. And then on the other hand, we also heard that no, it's actually too far off. And then today, Ethereum is too slow, and then there are scaling problems, there are privacy issues, efficiency issues, and company won't actually use them. So that's why you see people actually, Skuchain, I know you guys started with working with Hyperledger, and you were actually working very closely with their teams and try to actually educate them how to actually implement in real world. So that comes to question, are you guys more betting on public chain or private chain? Okay, if you want.
So the way we see it is there will be public chains, but I think from the enterprise perspective, private chains, or specifically permission chains, will be the main types of blockchain implementations for the near future. So if you think of a large enterprise, any one of the Fortune 500s, they're going to be building multiple networks. It's going to be like a network of networks, and it'll almost all likely be permissioned. Now, we are fully familiar. I mean, Vitalik had his 21st birthday at our office. He's now maybe a little over 23. He's like an old man. But Ethereum is essentially a public chain. There are lots of efforts, as Mohan was talking about, the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, to turn it into an enterprise project. I think that you're going to see a hybrid. There are certain types of applications where a public chain, Bitcoin, for example, is that application that stands out. I mean, it's a public chain. There are value in both, but I think enterprises are going to go with private chains, at least in the near future.
Yeah, Gangesh, you were actually working in all those giants. What do you think?
Yeah, clearly these giants like to keep it permissioned and private. But from a bigger picture, if you sort of look at it, if you look at the applications that they're actually focused on, those applications lend themselves to these types of permission networks. Primarily where, if JP Morgan is going to be working with Credit Suisse and Bank of New York, those three institutions are the institutions that are sort of participating in that, say, trade network. There might be others. There could be a clearinghouse. There could be a centralized counterparty. There are other folks that are typically involved in asset trading in a broad way. If you sort of look across the current types of asset classes that exist, a lot of these lend themselves again to sort of these types of public, private discussions. Very simply, they are strictly private. In terms of what they're doing today and where they intend to go in the next few years. There's always a lot of talk about who the actual, sort of entity that is the middleman. In our opinion, you have to actually truly understand when you actually look at a problem who the middleman is. When you understand the middleman, then you can actually understand whether the network needs to be private, whether it needs to be permissioned, whether it needs to be public, or whatever it is appropriate. You can understand who's actually getting disintermediated, what's the problem that you're really trying to solve, and that'll kind of give you the picture. The applications we've focused on today, all of them are permission private, sort of ledgers, blockchains, networks, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Harshita, you probably immerse yourself in public chain. So what do you think?
Did you say
like protocols, like tokens?
I think, going back to this point about understand the problem and then understand what your solution has to be. So I think it's like two tools and use them for when required. I would say that. In some sense, private blockchain as a word doesn't make a lot of sense because blockchains are inherently supposed to be like public. But I think it's about really learning about what the difference is and understanding how private blockchains are different from public blockchains and using them when the problem actually requires use case for one of them.
Right. So I'll highlight one thing, and sort of the term blockchain is actually used by people sort of fairly loosely, and we do too. Sometimes people, about a couple of years ago, took an attempt and said, oh, this is called a distributed ledger technology. So you'll see the terminology DLT used fairly often. In sort of the connotation of a DLT is that it's a permissioned sort of a private network, and that's why, the terminology of a DLT sort of exists. The term blockchain is sort of used loosely by people. By purists, they could say the Bitcoin blockchain, Ethereum blockchain, which are public networks in which everybody participates. The act of adding new blocks or new entries into that ledger is done in a public way and it's witnessed and can be cryptographically verified. That is what people describe and think of as blockchain. From our perspective, blockchain offers a lot of different tools. Public verification is one. Verification of the data by any party is yet another sort of subset of that view. You could actually then say, there's aspects of cryptography there, cryptographically linking events together, chaining events together, and then, applying these, certificates, private public keys to actually do identity. So you can actually break the blockchain into lots of different components, and based on your actual application, you can take some of those components and build with them and then solve the customer's problem rather than be, sort of getting caught in, is this a blockchain or not? So we try and avoid even having a conversation as to whether what we're building is a blockchain or not, simply by focusing on what the actual problem is and using components of what typically people have talked as blockchain and bringing them into that solution.
I'll second what Gangesh just said. It's like a magic show. Something's happening here, but the real thing is happening there. So all the public discussion around blockchain and the efficiency of the public networks and all of those kinds of things, not that they're not accurate and valid, but that's really not where the, let's call it, the excitement is. The excitement is in the core technology and the tool set around it. And for the smart person, try to look beyond the hype, beyond the noise, beyond the PR, beyond the semantics, to what is it that is really happening here? Why are we all in this room today? What's this excitement? What's different? What has changed? There is something that has changed, and that's something foundational and fundamental. Figure that out, and in your own domain, understand how that's going to make not just a small change, not just a ripple, but a magnitudinal change, because it is. It's coming in a big way. That tsunami is going to hit, and it's going to hit you. You better be prepared.
Yeah, I totally agree. As the investor ourselves, early stage investors, and we have been having a lot of challenges. Like last year, we were seeing fascinating teams spin off from Berkeley and from cybersecurity laboratories, from Stanford, and those are the companies that we really wanted to back. And those talents are very difficult to find. So one of the things that for investors, you not just try to actually get to know which team is good, which team is bad, and they are kind of like design a nuclear bomb. So you only have this one chance. Like if it works, like Bitcoin or Ethereum, it will work. And then if it doesn't work, the protocol is broken. No matter how well the team is, how good the team is, still it's just different. And on the other hand, once you participate in their private sale, and then you became a token holder, and then you have to do self-regulation, and you have to, protect yourself and also other token holders. There is so much work, and then for like public chain protocols, tokens, and then there is no CEO press release, so you have to become buddies with the CEOs, you have to go, like happy hour with them, and really there was so much challenge for like early stage investors. So as you are actually in this field, so how do you tell which project is good, and what are the signals that you can tell this project is gonna take off?
Well, one of the things, we're a small company, and very early on in our sort of genesis, as we sort of built the blockchain and sort of went out and talked to customers. During the early meetings, customers would hear our presentation and then would turn around and say, well, what is this for? What can I do with it? And 4 or 5 years ago, that was sort of the biggest challenge. We couldn't answer that as well very efficiently for our customers. Most of us started off by leading with the technology, and at least for us, that wasn't the right approach. But the last 2 or 3 years, our approach has been that we work with very, very targeted customers. In fact, our customer list is target list is very small. I say this to our customers and to our investors. We have only one sales guy in our team. He's somewhere here in the audience, I think. We have just a single sales guy in the team. And we are working with some of the largest financial institutions in the world. And we'll be announcing at least, we believe, two of the largest institutions in the world who are in the Fortune 50 list as our customers for mission critical applications, which are going to be part of their core infrastructures, just with the one sales guy. So the way we are doing it is by actually focusing very tightly on what the actual application is, listening to our customers. Over the last 3 years, we're here in Silicon Valley. We've traveled to New York 80 times. And the reason for it is that our customers are based in New York, and we have to learn what our customers will tell us what their problem is and how we can solve the problem. So our approach towards anything today has been stay focused. There's a lot of noise. And if you hear the announcement every day, Salesforce.com is entering blockchains, offering blockchain as a service. Of course, IBM just made a big presentation. Subsequently, Oracle, Intel, other people are going to talk about it. If we as a startup are going to be concerned every day that IBM, Oracle, Salesforce.com are coming, and all these announcements and hundreds of ICOs and token sales are happening, and regulators are clamping down, no regulators are going to allow it. If you're going to be listening to it, we'll be distracted. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to find a problem, focus on it, go solve it, and that'll kind of keep you at least on a course so that you don't get taken in too many directions.
Wow, do you need money? but we have to talk about the valuation as well, because
thanks. Not looking for money just yet, but always money is always a good thing. Yeah.
So she's asking if people are looking for money. We are looking for people. And what are you looking for, Harshita?
Ambitious problems that I can solve.
Just one of these days, just give us a call. We'll tell you some really, really big, hairy projects. I think Dr. Mohan talked about using relational databases underneath blockchains. We actually built it with entire Hadoop. We use Spark, Apache Spark, and Hadoop. We use HDFS, we use HBase, we use Cassandra. We actually can mix and match what our underlying key value stores are. They're big distributed key value stores. Lots of very, very interesting, difficult technology problems to solve. Just let us know if you want to solve some.
Ambitious problems that will have the most positive impact.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you about that as well.
And following up on that, those of you in the world of databases, Mohan talked about the fact that now pure SQL can be used in smart contracts. We're actually working on not just doing that, taking it one step further with obfuscation. There's significant work that's being done just on how clauses are authored and master service agreements. You think of how before Uber existed, you had airports, and now you got airports with Uber bays. So before we existed, you have master service agreements. Now you're going to have Skuchain clauses in those agreements. And imagine how the contract assignments and contract modifications are going to be automated. You can begin to recognize, so if you're in legal tech, if you're in reg tech, if you're in DevOps and moving to essentially productizing that, the blockchain today provides unique opportunities. Money is available. Smart people are needed. We have ideas. Give us a call.
Harshita, do you have any advice on how to tell a good project from the bad ones?
I think blockchain isn't unique in the sense that you need different set of guidelines or rules for finding the good projects or good teams. I think there's been a lot of entrepreneurs and really intelligent people who have written and talked about this is how to spot a good opportunity to invest in, or this is how to find a good opportunity to commit your work life to as joining that startup. So I think it's about the team, it's the idea that they're or the problem that they're solving, and their product, which I think applies to pretty much any startup that maybe you as an investor are looking to invest in, or you as a person are looking into joining, or you as a person are looking at a problem to solve. So I think it's the same set of guidelines that apply to, but for blockchain specifically, I think I would go back to my point about people who actually understand it, not all sales guys, but actual engineers who build the things. I think investing in a team that actually has those engineers is definitely a green flag, I guess. That is one thing I would say to find the good blockchain projects / startups.
Mm-hmm. So I actually have been to a lot of crypto parties, and people, they're just crazy, and it's open source culture, and then everybody was so excited, and we're gonna upgrade internet faster, safer, and open. So can you tell us, why do you think, if the audience, they're interested, why do you think they should join a crypto or blockchain startup?
Why they should join a blockchain startup? All right, just first of all, it's very big, very impactful. The ability to sort of work on mission critical, sort of world changing problems. It exists only in a few different places. One of them certainly is blockchains. So we think of it as, if you want to make something really big, impactful, this is a great space to be in. And that's why you'd want to come in here.
Bill Gates, his famous statement was, you overestimate the speed and you underestimate the magnitude. That was what he said about the internet. That's kind of where we are with the blockchain. So things may not happen really fast, but the magnitude is dramatic. So if you are looking at the next 10 years of your career, I think the most important thing is going to be blockchain, or one of the most important things.
If somebody wants to join a startup and they have the prerequisite skills that are required for the job, then I think if they find the problem interesting enough, that's the problem that the blockchain startup is solving, and I guess I think those things matter, and also because if you want to be working at not have the FOMO that you're missing out on a technology, and also if you wanted to say prepare yourself for a startup that you want to do in the future, because working with technologies that very few smart people are working on is a good way to differentiate yourself, and blockchain is one of the things that very few smart people are doing today relative to other fields. So I think if you want to differentiate yourself in the pool of smart people who are working on technologies, startups, then one way is by joining a startup that is actually working on a problem that you're interested in.
Yeah, very interesting discussion. I learned a lot. And we ran out of time, and thank you very much. And let's give another round of applause for the panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you.